diary-like reflections from inside the home.
And that's a jarring contrast.
It really is.
Yeah, you have the cold clinical language of the law on one side,
Yeah.
terms like hostile environment and liability, and on the other you have the raw emotional debris field of a family trying to survive the fallout.
And that's our mission for this deep dive, to connect those two things. Because the story here isn't just about a bad teacher or a lawsuit. It's about this paradox. We're looking at a scenario where a parent does everything right. They fight the system, they protect their child, and yet the text suggests this victory is what actually destroys the child's trust.
That's the crux of it. We tend to think that if you just remove the threat, the trauma stops. But these documents suggest something much darker.
Which is?
That sometimes the person who builds the wall to keep the danger out, well, they become the person the child resents for blocking the view.
So let's start with that trigger, the before picture. I'm looking at this image of a text document. It's a formal complaint.
Right.
It's about a teacher identified as Mr. Name, and it uses a phrase that just jumps right out. Hostile learning environment.
Okay.
Now, I've heard that term used loosely. Is this just a parent being angry about a bad grade, or is that a defined legal thing?
Oh, it's very defined. This isn't a complaint about a teaching style.
Nice.
The text explicitly cites Illinois state law and federal laws, specifically Title IX's. So when you see hostile learning environment in a legal context like this, it means the behavior is severe, pervasive, and objectively offensive. It's a really high bar to clear.
And the allegations here are, well, they're ugly. It says the student was subjected to physical harassment as well as microaggressions.
And that combination is so important. Physical harassment, that's the overt act, the touching, the invasion of space.
Right.
But the microaggressions are like the atmospheric pressure, the constant, subtle belittling that makes a person feel unsafe in their own skin.
You mentioned Title IX's.
Yeah.
I think for a lot of people, myself included, when we hear Title IX's, we immediately think of like university sports.
Yeah, that's the common one.
You know, funding for the women's soccer team versus the football team.
It's a common misconception, but Title IX is so much broader than that. It's a massive civil rights shield. It prohibits sex-based discrimination in any education program that gets federal money. And, as this source correctly points out, sexual harassment is legally considered a form of sex discrimination.
So the argument this document is making is that by harassing her, the school is actually denying
her an education, precisely. If a student is afraid to walk into a classroom because of a teacher's harassment, they aren't accessing their education.
They're in survival mode.
Exactly. The document argues the student had a fundamental right to a harm-free educational environment and that right was stolen from her.
Okay, so let's play out the standard narrative here. In a movie, this is the moment the hero steps up.
Yeah.
The mom, and text clarifies it, is the mom filing this. She sees the harassment. She sees her daughter suffering. So she steps in, files a complaint, quotes the law, and stops the bad guy.
And legally, she wins. She does exactly what a protector is supposed to do. She identifies the threat and she neutralizes it. The teacher is removed or the behavior stops. The system works on paper.
But this is where our deep dive takes a hard left turn. Because usually the story ends there, roll credits. But the other sources we have aren't about the teacher. They're about what happens inside the house after the legal battle is won.
This is where we move from the legal injury to the psychological injury.
We have text describing the mother and the father. And the dynamic is, well, it's heartbreaking. The text calls the mother the protector. She's the one who dealt with the lawyers, the school board, the confrontation. She did all the heavy lifting.
She made herself the shield. She stood between the predator and the child. And that's an inherently aggressive stance to take. You have to fight to protect someone.
But then listen to this line from the source.
Yeah.
It stops me in my tracks every time I read it. It says, and you, the mother, become the one she distrusts.
It's a gut punch.
I mean, how does that work? It says she becomes the one the daughter distrusts, not because of anything you did, but because she needed someone to blame who wouldn't abandon her. I need you to break that down for me.
It sounds so irrational to us as adults, but think about it from the perspective of a traumatized child.
Okay.
The source explains that the child needed the world to make sense. When you experience harassment, especially from an authority figure like a teacher, your world just feels chaotic and unsafe. You have all this fear and this rage, and you need to discharge it somewhere.
But why aim it at the mom? Why not the teacher?
Because the teacher is dangerous. He's already proven he can hurt her. Getting angry at your abuser is risky. But think about the energy it takes to be angry at a parent you know loves you, a parent who just proved by fighting the entire school board that she isn't going anywhere.
So it's safer.
It's infinitely safer. The source argues the child needed a parent who felt safe to be angry at. The mother proved she was strong, present, unshakable. So tragically, she becomes the vessel for all that radioactive emotion.
Wow.
The child subconsciously knows, I can scream at mom, I can reject mom, and she will still be there in the morning.
That is just incredibly unfair. It's like the mother is being punished for her own reliability.
It is the burden of the good mother in this text. She becomes the punching bag, precisely because the child knows she won't break. But she doesn't carry this burden in a vacuum. We have to talk about the other player in this house.
The father.
The father!
Yeah, let's talk about the dad. Because the text labels him very differently. It calls him the refuge.
A refuge without ever having been the protector. That line is just scathing.
It really is. It paints this picture of him just staying silent. He doesn't defend the teacher, obviously, but he doesn't seem to back up the mom either.
No.
The text says he should have corrected her, you should have told her the truth, acknowledged your efforts, but instead, he stayed silent.
And that silence is weaponized. This is a dynamic we see so often in family therapy, but it's rarely described this clearly. By saying nothing, he creates a contrast.
A contrast between what?
Between the, quote, hysterical protector and the, quote, calm observer. Think about it. Mom is loud. Mom's on the phone with lawyers. Mom is asking about court dates. Mom is stressed. Dad is quiet. Dad is watching TV. Dad is chill. To a traumatized nervous system that is already overstimulated, which parent feels better to be around?
The quiet one. The path of least resistance.
Exactly. He gets to be the good guy, essentially, by doing nothing. He passively allows the child to believe that the mother's reaction is the problem, not the abuse itself.
So by not saying, hey, your mom is doing this to save you, he lets the daughter believe a lie.
He benefits from the lie. The source notes that he quietly allows the child to believe that the mother's protection was somehow wrong or excessive. So if mom is intense and fighting and dad is quiet and accepting, the child naturally gravitates toward the dad.
That feels like such a betrayal.
The source suggests it's the ultimate betrayal. He prioritizes his relationship with the daughter, his desire to be liked, to be the favorite over the truth. He lets the mother take the fall so he can remain the refuge.
And that leads us to the third part of this whole tragedy. We've looked at the legal trigger, the parental split. But now we have to look at the child's mind.
Yep.
Because the text says that to make this dynamic work, the girl has to start rewriting the world.
This is where cognitive dissonance kicks in. The text states, there is a particular kind of heartbreak that happens when a young girl wants to trust her father so badly that she begins rewriting the world around her to make that trust possible.
Rewriting the world, this is a huge concept. What does that actually look like for her?
Well, children crave certainty. They need their parents to be good. So she wants her father to be her protector. But if he isn't actually protecting her, if he's just silent, she has a conflict.
Problem to solve.
Right. Dad is good, but dad isn't helping mom fight. So mom's fight must be bad.
She has to villainize the protection to justify the silence.
She has to change the narrative. If dad is good, then mom must be crazy. The text explains that the ground literally shifts beneath her. She begins to see her mother's actions not as love, but as interference. She interprets boundaries as overreactions.
That is just devastating. She convinces herself that the parent who fought for her is the one who failed her.
And she does it to preserve the illusion of safety with the father. The text says she isn't really choosing sides. She is choosing the version of safety she wishes she had. She wants the easy, quiet safety the father represents, even if it's a lie, rather than the hard-fought, messy safety the mother actually provided.
It's almost like she's gaslighting herself with the father's passive permission.
Passive permission is the perfect term. The source is very critical of the father here. It says the tragedy grows in the space where he lets her think her mother caused the conflict, even though he knows the truth. It grows because he benefits from her turning toward him, even if it means she turns away from you.
So we have the legal trauma, then the emotional trauma of the family split. But this deep dive takes it one step further, and this is the part I think is going to stick with our listeners the most. The final source talks about the long-term cost. It says this shift isn't just emotional, it becomes embodied.
This is such a crucial pivot in how we understand trauma. We often think of trauma as just a memory, something that lives in the brain. But this source argues it lives in the body.
The text says, Over time, that shift becomes more than emotional. It becomes embodied. And it gives very specific examples. It describes a girl who hides her breasts.
Let's connect the dots back to the beginning. Look at that first document again, the Title IX complaint. What did it say?
Sexual harassment, physical harassment.
Right. So she learned at a very young age in that classroom that her body attracted danger. That being visible, being a young woman, invited harm. That's the initial injury.
But because the family dynamic got so twisted, because the protection was painted as crazy by the father's silence, she never processed that danger correctly.
She internalized it. If the mother, the protector, is wrong, then the danger must be the girl's fault. The text says she hides her breasts, not because she dislikes her body, but because attention feels dangerous.
Attention feels dangerous. That line. It's just so sad. She's making herself smaller.
She's trying to disappear. The text says she tries to disappear not because she wants to be invisible, but because visibility has been tied to harm.
She loses her confidence.
She loses the ease she once had. She loses the version of herself that felt whole, confident, and unafraid.
So instead of thinking, that teacher was bad and my body is fine, she thinks, my body is the problem.
Exactly. And the text mentions she carries the weight of experiences she never should have had. It's not just the harassment, it's the confusion of loyalties. She's carrying the shame that belonged to the teacher and the guilt that belonged to her father.
It's a cascading failure.
Right.
The school failed her legally, the family dynamic failed her emotionally, and now her own perception of reality is failing her physically.
And through all of it, the mother is left holding what the text calls quiet grief.
That phrase again, the quiet grief of a mother who did everything right in a world that rewarded the parent who did nothing.
It really challenges our definition of good parenting, doesn't it? We often praise the parent who is calm, who doesn't make a scene. We value de-escalation. But this text suggests that sometimes that calmness is actually negligence. And the hysterical or overreacting parent, the one filing the papers and making the noise, is the only one actually doing the job.
It really makes you rethink the dynamics we see in families. Just because someone is quiet doesn't mean they're safe.
Right.
And just because someone is loud or combative doesn't mean they're the aggressor. Sometimes the fight is the only proof of love.
And sometimes silence is the loudest form of betrayal. The father knew the truth. He knew the mother was right. But he let the daughter believe the lie because it made him the favorite, and it cost the daughter her confidence, and it cost the mother her relationship with her child.
So as we look at this stack of papers, this legal complaint stapled to a tragedy, what are we supposed to take away from this? For the people listening who might be the calm friend or the chill parent.
I think the takeaway is about the difference between comfort and safety. The daughter wanted the version of safety she wishes she had, that fantasy where dad protects her. But it wasn't real. It was just comfort.
Right.
Real safety requires acknowledging the harm, even when it's ugly.
Safety without truth isn't safety. It's just denial.
Exactly. And denial has a physical cost. That image of her hiding her breast, trying to disappear, that's the physical receipt for all this emotional debt. It's the bill coming due.
I want to leave our listeners with a thought that these sources have really sparked in me. We live in a culture that loves chill. We strive to be the cool head in a crisis. We want to be the easy parent or friend or partner. But I want you to ask yourself, in our desire to be that calm presence, are we actually providing safety? Or are we just benefiting from someone else's need to escape reality?
It's a hard question. When does our silence stop being peacekeeping and start being a betrayal? That is the question the Refuge parent really needs to answer.
It's not an easy deep dive today, but it's an important one. Understanding these